Mike Lakusta. How can expanding your hobby network improve the experience for an average collector, especially for introverts who find it hard to socialize? I'm hoping to encourage more connections in the hobby.
Well, if you don't like people, I would say shrink your network.
Ridiculous, Fondling Cardboard.
What is up? Welcome back to Fondling Cardboard. I'm your host, Mike Lakusta, aka the Golf Card Collector. And today, I might actually be more than just a golf card collector. I'm going to call myself a Steve Nash collector. That's right, I'm a player collector from a different sport. This is still going to be a golf-heavy episode, but I made my second largest purchase of all time. Just so happened to be a Steve Nash pickup. I'm not going to tease too much right now, but that is kind of what inspired one of the topics of today, which is hobby networking and how to leverage that to build the collection of your dreams. The second main topic, which I'm probably going to start with actually in this episode, is about a very unique product, which was a collaboration between a third-party company and Beckett. That's right, BGS grading from, 20 to 25 years ago, something like that. And why is it relevant today? You'll find out. And then, of course, we'll get into Mailbag and Card of the Week. Here we go. A few months ago, I was scrolling through my Facebook feed and I came across a post from somebody in the Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group. And it was a very strange looking slabbed Tiger Woods rookie card. So it was his iconic 2001 Upper Deck #1 golf Tiger Woods. But it was graded in a Beckett slab that had a little patch encapsulated within the slab. Not an actual memorabilia card, but a memorabilia slab. Now that card immediately caught my attention and it put me down a bit of a rabbit hole, looking on eBay, trying to do some research, and I found out lots of information, and in fact, I ended up buying one of these cards. I'll get to that in a little bit, but first I'll talk just a little bit about what the heck this thing is. So it's in a BGS slab, but on the back, it refers to a website, and I found it very strange. It says www.ggumcard.com. Now, if that sounds kind of weird to you, you're not alone. G-Gum, G-G-U-M card, it just sounds a little silly, I would say. Who the heck is G-Gum, and why is their company branded on a Beckett slab label? More importantly, what is this little piece of memorabilia encapsulated within the slab? What does it have to do with a card? Is it authentic? Is it aftermarket? Is it related to Tiger Woods? What the heck is going on? And to complicate things even more, when you go to ggumcard.com, it ends up with an error, like the website doesn't exist anymore. Now you might think that sounds like a red flag, and that was definitely one of my initial thoughts, but it really, more than anything else, just piqued my interest and sent me down a rabbit hole of research through the old threads and archives and in the early 2000s sports cards forums. Well, there was a lot of conversation, well, maybe not a lot, but there was conversation about G-Gum cards and this specific style of BGS slab with the patch encapsulated. And it wasn't just Tiger Woods. There were Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, some baseball players. Lots of famous athletes had these slabs with encapsulated memorabilia. And yeah, people had varying opinions. Some people thought this must be inauthentic or some kind of scam. Some people, provided evidence that the company was legitimate and that they were working with BGS. And some people rode the fence. And it was very kind of fun to look back, 20 years ago and see what kind of, conversation was happening in the sports card world, and even just culturally, how people talked and what kind of slang they were using. One person said something, I forget what it was, but they used a phrase that, I hadn't heard in 20 years. So just fun to flip through the old forums. So one thing in particular was very helpful. Now, somebody had provided what's it called? Like an archive for an old website. Yeah, that's exactly what it's called, an archived website. And I will actually share it with you right now. It is https://web.archive.org/2016030911/ggumcard.com/. All right, for those of you who work in tech, you're probably going to be cringing and laughing that I said https://. I don't know if it works without that crap, but there you go. And you know what? I'm just going to add the links as well in the description of the podcast so that you can just copy paste it. So according to the archived website for ggumcard.com, this is what they describe their product as being. Welcome to a totally new sports collectible, a graded trading card by Beckett Grading Services with an authentic game-used piece of bat, jersey, helmet, glove, racing fire suit, plus much more. The patent-pending G-Gum product is the world's first sports collectible to combine a graded card with a separate piece of game-used memorabilia in the same encapsulation. This unique innovation allows for vintage trading cards to be turned into graded game-used memorabilia cards. With grading by Beckett Grading Services, a collector is assured that each G-Gum product is genuine. U.S. patent number 7308986. So, very interesting. It's basically what I was expecting, but it's nice to hear the company describe themselves in that way. Further, deeper into the archives, there's also a complete list of the memorabilia that they had access to, an image, a photograph of the actual item used. Now, what's really catching my attention in here is that they've got a lot of significant athletes like Alex Rodriguez, game-used home run gloves, Nike cleats from Albert Pujols. Let's see, an Arnold Palmer golf club. And so it sounds like they used the rubber and the securing the black tape or something like that within an Arnold Palmer G-Gum card. I haven't seen any of them, but I'm sure they exist. There's a Babe Ruth bat. So for Tiger Woods, when I'm scrolling down the list, it's a blue golf shirt. Okay, and when I click on the image, I zoom in on the pattern, it does indeed match the swatch that is encapsulated within the card that I ended up buying. So all of this is to kind of corroborate the product, G-Gum, and its authenticity. Obviously there's still room, I guess, for funny business, but everything I'm finding, any skepticism or confusion, is really just from collectors who haven't done their research. From the history books, that what I'm finding, it sounds legit and it sounds very collectible. And it's actually pretty cool. They have a description of the item. So for the Arnold Palmer Club, for instance, it says a piece of history swung by the master himself, a titanium shafted one wood, so I guess that's a driver, links developed by Jack Ross, founder of the company. It displays extensive use and owns a Newman calf grip secured with black tape, a signature feature of Palmer's. Scrolling down to the Tiger Woods shirt, the description is a blue Nike golf shirt used by Tiger Woods for an instruction shoot for Golf Digest. The shirt was worn by Tiger when he appeared on the cover of the April issue of Golf Digest. The game displays light wear. Now, all of this is very intriguing to me. Hopefully it is to you as well. And I was wondering, how did this product go to market? What was it? Well, did you send in your cards to Beckett and then they had this third-party G-Gum that would throw a piece of memorabilia in there? Or did you send them to G-Gum and then they would work with Beckett? Or did just those two companies work together and then they sold the pre-encapsulated cards on the secondary market? How did this all go down? Did Beckett just have a whole bunch of vintage cards laying around that they wanted to encapsulate with somebody else's memorabilia, and it was just sort of this opportunistic situation? Well, I don't know for sure, but that last thing I just described seems like maybe the more likely case. Some of the people in some of these old threads from over 20 years ago said that they would buy packs from G-Gum, and one random card with the memorabilia encapsulated within a BGS slab would be in that pack. It would be guaranteed graded 7.5 or higher. Now, one guy also said that these G-Gum slabs were only available at Target, so that kind of conflicted with the guy who said to buy them on the website. Perhaps they went to market in a few different ways. Perhaps these channels were open at different periods of time, which could explain the perceived discrepancy. In any case, it seems like something where a third-party company with a bunch of memorabilia, game-used memorabilia of legends of games, partnered up with BGS and then sold these things in randomized packs. Now, before I talk about the specific card that I ended up picking up, one more thing that's kind of worth sharing about all this, it's kind of funny actually, is something clicked in my brain. I thought, I've seen a very weird looking slab that had a whole bunch of Tiger Woods patches, like in the part of the slab where there'd normally be a card. And then it had a label that said Tiger Woods game used memorabilia, Nike shirt or whatever. And I remember seeing that and just thinking it was the weirdest little thing. You know, it obviously popped up on one of my saved searches for Tiger Woods graded cards or whatever. And at the time, I hadn't even given it two thoughts. But now that I'm learning about G-Gum, of course, the dots started to connect. And I looked back at that old listing. I think it even sold. Maybe there's been multiple of them. Or maybe it's been relisted. I don't know. But I went back and I looked and I found a listing. And sure enough, those were the same swatches that Beckett and G-Gum were encapsulating along with the Tiger Woods cards. So obviously, they didn't cut that shirt up into a million pieces and make a million slabs. There was a limited number of them. I think there was like 80 swatches within that one, let's call it surplus slab that was listed on eBay. So, you know, I'm not going to do the math and figure out how many of those little 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter patches would make up an entire shirt. But, you know, it's a limited product line, and obviously they only made so many of them. So let's jump to the card that I ended up picking up, and there's another little twist coming at the end of the story too. So I noticed a pristine BGS 10 Tiger Woods rookie card on auction on eBay. And it was the G-Gum with the patch in the corner. I thought, oh my goodness, this is incredible. I just kind of came across this brand, this product. And here is a pristine Tiger Woods rookie card. Now, Tiger Woods rookie card, I've owned a few copies. I still own a few copies. It doesn't quite hit home for me anymore, to be frank. I mean, there's so many gosh darn copies of this card. There's thousands of PSA 10 copies. There's even like, you know, probably under 100 BGS Black Label copies, but it's more than 50. I think there's like maybe 60 Black Labels. So this card was significantly printed, and, you know, if I'm going to have a copy of it in my collection, it's got to kind of be a special version of it. Now, I already had a special version of it, and it was the first golf card I ever picked up. It was a BGS 9 originally. I sent it to HGA, another grading company that makes custom labels, and HGA kind of took some of the design styles of the card and incorporated it into the label for a one-of-a-kind copy. And of course, they graded it Gem Mint 9.5 instead of BGS 9. So I already had a special copy of this card. So impulsively, I looked at this and thought, wow, it would be so cool to own that. And I threw in a bid for about the price that a regular pristine 10 would sell without the game-used memorabilia patch encapsulated in the slab. And I won it. I won it for around that price. I think it was around just under $400 US, something like that. And, you know, the card arrived, and, you know, it's cool. And I have a bit of buyer's remorse, to be honest. And by the way, the slab does have a little chip in the corner, just to be fully transparent. And so I'm looking at this card thinking, how rare is this card? You know, what's the population? And what am I going to do with it? So I tried to look up, the population, the cert number on the back with Beckett does show up in the Beckett's population report, and something stuck out to me because when I looked at the Beckett registry of 2001 Upper Deck Tiger Woods rookie cards, there was a whole bunch of certification numbers in sequence. So that means whatever number this is that ends in 078, 079, 080, etc., were also all 2001 Upper Deck Tiger Woods rookie cards. Now, Beckett, in their registry, does not differentiate between the G-Gum cards with the patch versus just regular graded Tiger Woods rookie cards without the patch. So it's impossible, as far as I'm aware, to know the true population of this card with the patch. But from what I can tell, either G-Gum or Beckett sent in a bunch of Tiger Woods rookie cards and got them all graded in a batch, and I presume all encapsulated with the graded game used memorabilia patch. Now, when I scan all of those certification numbers that are all in a row, this is the only one that got a BGS 10 pristine. So, to me, that really, I can't say it's Pop 1, I don't know for sure, but every indication is supporting my hypothesis that it is a Pop 1 Tiger Woods rookie patch card. Now, as to what to do with this card, it's an amazing card, and I'd love to own it. It's a bit expensive. There's definitely a lot of other cards that would fit better within my collecting lanes for less money, so I can buy multiple of them for the cost of this card. So I've decided to offer this card as a prize in the British The Open Championship Golf Card Fantasy Pool, which is going to be, it's open for registry right now, and it kicks off next Thursday. The deadline to join is next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And to join, you can look up for a link on my Instagram, which is @thegolfcardcollector, or you can just head over to my Linktree, which is linktr.ee/fondlingcardboard. And the Linktree has a sign-up form with instructions and all that sort of stuff. So check it out if you're interested. I am only going to add it to the pool, though, if we can get 30 or more members in the pool. So it's incentive for everybody to go tell your friends. If you're listening to this podcast, I know I get more than 30 listens per episode. So if each of you were to join the pool, then this guy would definitely be one of the prizes. I would intend for it to be awarded to the winner of the pool. But heck, if we get significantly more than 30 entries, maybe there's something bigger and better. I don't know. We'll see. Wow, that graded game used memorabilia conversation went on a lot longer than I anticipated. Hopefully it provided a lot of value to you guys. I did put in a lot of time to research and understand what this kind of product and what this card is. Ultimately, I think it's an awesome collectible. If, I wasn't striving for some other lanes within my collection, I would 100% be happy to keep it within my collection. And I would probably get this thing called a Card Case Pro, not a sponsor in any way, but it's this cool leather looking sort of slab protector. They call them slab bags. The company Card Protector Pro, I think is what they're called. And these slab bags are these leather cases basically that go around a slab. And, like I mentioned, it has a little chip in the corner, but if you get one of those sweet slab bags around it, not only would it, hide that chip, but it would also really make the card pop and add an extra layer of protection. I'm thinking of ordering from the Card Case Pro website. They give you a discount if you buy in bulk. So I'm not really sure how many I want, and I don't know if they ship to Canada, but I'll figure all that out. Just a little tip, I guess, for you other collectors out there that want to make your cards look cooler and more protected. But I digress again. Next, I want to talk about networking in the hobby, because I made my second biggest purchase ever in the sports card hobby, of course. And the way that I managed to find the cards that I picked up was through networking. And it was a unique situation. So I'll describe what happened and some lessons that I learned about etiquette and these sorts of things. And I hope you get a lot of value out of it. So one day, as I was scrolling through my saved searches on eBay, I came across a card it was a dream card of mine. And I thought there's no way I could own this card. It's not a significantly expensive card. I mean, for people outside of the hobby, they'd say, what? That's ridiculous to spend on a card. But, it was listed for $1,000. And it is a 2008 Topps Chrome Gold Refractor of Steve Nash, serial numbered out of 50, of course, and it's graded BGS 9.5. So gem mint, some would say equivalent to a PSA 10. And it was listed for $1,000. And I thought, you know what? That's probably a fair price. That card is incredible. I know that the Gold Refractor Raw of this year, this exact card, sold for, for $400 US American, something like, or between $300 and $400 American. So the gem mint copy has got to be 3 times that. So $1,000 could make sense. Now, I made an offer, an absolute lowball. I sent a $300 Canadian offer, and it got instantly rejected by the seller's minimum offer requirement. So normally when that would happen, I would just give up. But something about that card really resonated with me. And I was kind of lowballing, assuming that the seller would come back with a counter. And if it was anything reasonable, then I thought maybe there's a conversation to be had. So I instead of being dejected and giving up, I then thought, well, let's just see if the seller's minimum offer is above $400 Canadian. Let's see if that works out. So I sent an offer for $402 Canadian, thinking maybe they'll come back at me with, if they come back with $500 or $600, maybe we can work something out. But instead, the seller accepted the offer, and I was ecstatic. Now comes the networking aspect of this story, because that $402 purchase of the Topps Chrome Gold Steve Nash Refractor is not the second biggest purchase of my hobby history. It was the introduction to another collector who I had a lot in common with, and it instigated a conversation. And I hope you guys can learn from this part in particular. Normally, people try to build rapport with a seller during a negotiation. And I do this all the time. I'm very guilty of this. I try to build rapport with somebody because you want to be on their good side. You want them to negotiate in your favor. You want them to like you and be inclined to let their rare cardboard end up in your hands. But what I did in this situation was the opposite. We did a complete cold transaction, didn't know each other from a hole in the wall, and after making the transaction, we engaged in conversation. And I told him I was very excited to own the card, and I thanked him for accepting the offer. And I said, by the way, I'm a big Steve Nash fan. I grew up in the same area. I played basketball in the same court as Steve Nash years after he had won the high school provincial championship in my kind of home city or home province. And that, I had some deeper connections to him as well. And this was a card I had always admired, and I'm really looking forward to having it as one of the centerpieces of my Steve Nash collection. And that, I think, really tugged at some of his collector heartstrings. And I learned that this gentleman had retired, and that he had a very comprehensive and impressive Steve Nash collection. He had met Steve Nash and Steve's dad when he had lived in the same area as Steve. And before hobby prices blew up and went crazy in recent years, he had acquired basically every single one of Steve Nash's most important and iconic and rare card, all the way down to the green 1997 PMG out of 10, the Star Rubies from around that same year. Basically, he was indicating he had every card, or had owned every card at some point, because he had sold the PMG and the Star Rubies at the height of the bubble, which I congratulated him on. Very well done with those sales. So after sharing each other's stories and building some rapport, the next thing was, obviously, to pull up my dream bucket list of Steve Nash cards. Now, I can't afford a lot of his big stuff. Like a green PMG is, frankly, unless I win the lottery, never going to be on the list. It is on the list. If I were to own one, I would treasure it, but I can't afford to have that kind of money. Like I'm talking more than 5 figures in a card, and that's just not possible. So I looked at my bucket list and said, what could I realistically afford right now for, I don't know, $1,000 to $1,500 Canadian? What are a bunch of cards that would kind of fit within that price range? And I wrote out a list of about a dozen cards. The most important one to me in that list was a 2004 Topps Pristine Gold Steve Nash, serial numbered out of 27. And the reason that was the most important to me is that I had never even seen the card, and let alone a comp for the card or any idea of what the value is for that card. But I had seen other players, like I've seen a Ray Allen, maybe some lesser name NBA players, and I've seen them sell for, 3 figures, low hundreds, $100, $200, whatever. And I thought, Steve Nash, Hall of Famer, 2-time MVP, that one's got to be valuable. And the fact that I've never seen it means it's got to be rare. And what blew my mind is that when he got back to me, not only did he essentially have every card on the list, he had that one card, the dream card that I'd never seen before, and he sent me a picture of it. And not only did he have that card, but he also had another variation of that card, which is an uncirculated Topps sealed in a magnetic one-touch version that's out of 25 instead of 27. And it looks like maybe like a silver refractor style. So the gold one that I was aware of, aesthetically looks better, and it's got these kind of serrated edges, whereas the uncirculated one has regular straight trading card edges, and it's only out of 25 instead of 27. But that just blew my mind. Not only did he have my dream card, but he had another variation of it that I didn't even know existed. Now comes the second lesson for me when it comes to hobby networking and trying to kind of build rapport and a friendship and some sort of relationship with somebody who you're hoping to transact with and maybe be connected with in the hobby. And that was making a connection through eBay. It's a delicate thing. Now, I've done it in a few different ways. I've been guilty of it. I'm sorry if there's eBay listeners who work at eBay. Don't cancel my account. But I've been guilty of taking a picture of a card and then writing on the iPhone photo editing app to write my phone number or my email address, or say, hit me up on Instagram and put my @handle on the picture. I don't know if that's necessarily... it's definitely not allowed. I don't know if it's frowned upon. I don't know if it's well received. But this gentleman who I was interacting with did something that really I found to be very professional, and it wouldn't go as much against eBay's guidelines or terms and conditions. And he said, after he said, yes, I have this card, he sent me some scans. He said, I added something in your package, so let me know once you get the card. So when the gold 2008 Topps Chrome card arrived, he had added in, by the way, a few freebies of some, less rare cards, but I appreciated that, and a little piece of paper with his email address. So I sent the guy an email, and we are officially off of the eBay platform, communicating one-on-one as collectors. And when I connect with somebody who shares one of my lanes, I can talk forever. I'm half an hour into this podcast already, and I've talked about 2 things that I'm passionate about: Tiger Woods golf cards and Steve Nash golf cards. I can go on forever. I'm not going to right now in this podcast, but we exchanged very lengthy emails. Now, when you're interacting with a seller who is giving signals that they're a little annoyed or that they are brief, they're short, my advice is, mimic their conversation style. Don't answer a 1-sentence message that's very straight to the point, direct. with a 3-paragraph novel about why you love the player, blah, 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 blah. Because this individual had shown me some reciprocating messages back, I said the floodgates can be open, and I shared every last little bit of Steve Nash, hobby lore and everything I loved about him as an athlete and his cards and what I had collected and the themes that I went after, such as my Canadian flag branch of my Steve Nash collection, the 2004 to 2009 Topps Chrome and Finest range, which has a soft spot in my heart. All of these kinds of things we exchanged over emails. And it was going back to the first thing I said, which was it buttered him up, because ultimately I used the traditional negotiating tactics as well, such as, saying, a lump sum deal is easier for you. It's less shipping for you, less things to, post on eBay, less buyers that you have to interact with, less, risk having so many different packages sent out. And ultimately, none of those resonated with him. And the only thing that did resonate was the fact that his treasured Steve Nash collection, it wasn't his whole collection, but his treasured cards were going to end up with somebody who would adore them. And he even frankly said that in an email. He kind of rebutted each of the negotiating points that I brought up, as a true negotiator does. But he admitted that part of this negotiation and the thing that was giving him comfort was knowing where his cards were going. So to kind of put a cap on this story, we ended up making a deal for basically every card that I had wanted on my list. Some of the most notables are 2006-07 Topps Chrome X-Fractor Steve Nash BGS 9, and that's serial numbered out of 10. A 2009 Topps Chrome Gold Refractor out of 50 BGS 9. And that's the last set of Topps Chrome, Topps Basketball, and Steve Nash is being guarded by Steph Curry, and that was Steph Curry's rookie year. So it's amazing to see my two favorite basketball players on another card. So that's just very, very special card. And that's when he told me he had that's one, I knew we were going to work something out. Of course, I have the 2008 Topps Chrome Gold that we transacted over eBay for, and the two Topps Pristine out of 25 and 27, a Worldwide Wonders SSP Steve Nash. I've only ever seen one sale of this card. It was from a couple of years ago. It was only for $20 American, but I'm sure it's worth more than that. I love the card. Two of the Topps Finest Steve Nash rookie refractors, because there's two different variations. These ones also were just very special to add in, which are 2007 or 2007-08, so the year before the Gold Refractor I got. There was the out of 50 that year was not gold. It was a black X-Fractor out of 50, and he sold me both the base gold X-Fractor out of 50 and the 53 variation, which is like an older 1950s style of basketball card. Also, though, with the black X-Fractor out of 50, both of them are in excellent condition. I've got them already prepped for grading. So, there's more to it. There's also the Atomic Bowman Refractor. Amazing card. Second year Steve Nash refractor card wearing the Suns jersey. There's just an incredible amount of cards here that I'm absolutely pumped to add to my collection. So I had actually prepared a bunch of other bullet points and lessons learned about hobby networking and the benefits for them. And I think I might just save that for next episode. Hopefully we can get into it. And actually, there's also some BGS talk, which doesn't relate to G-Gum cards. Beckett was a big part of today's topics. So maybe this whole conversation about both Beckett and networking will carry forward into next week's episode. But I do have one clip to share, which is from the Sports Cards Nonsense podcast by Mike Geo and Jesse Rhodes Gibson. And it was kind of sampled at the beginning of this episode when they took my question within their mailbag. And I'm going to be sharing their answer to my question: what are the benefits of networking in the sports cards hobby for an average collector?
I mean, I don't know, it's like anything else. The more people you deal with, you'll find good and bad. Stick with the good people you meet. That's why, like I say, social media can be a cesspool. There's also a lot of value if you can get into communities there and really build your way up to things. So, good and bad with everything. I would say just don't take things too serious. Too many guys get worked up. We see the complaints all the time about the group. This guy said this or posted or, insulted my post. Just move on. Deal with crap you want to deal with.
I would say that your network is probably one of the things that's so impressive to me. Even before I had gotten to the hobby, it was just because you seem to know somebody for something, like whether it was a baseball card, football, whatever, you could find a person who might either be interested in it or find out news about something. I don't know. I feel like if you're expanding your network out like that, there's only benefits for your collection as far as finding what you want and pricing.
Yep.
Last week I had to skip Mailbag, and I promised I'd get to it this week. So as promised, here we go. Pat Bonnet asks, who does Upper Deck need to sign for upcoming sets, and why have some top players not signed? So the people that I would love to see are some Canadians like Mackenzie Hughes, or Mac Hughes as he goes by. But I do have to give kudos to Upper Deck because they got Corey Connors in on the latest sets, and they already had Nick Taylor and Adam Hadwin. Plus, they recently added Brooke Henderson, so they really have the Canadian market cornered already. I mean, I'd love to see if they could add in some of the live golf superstars. I mean, obviously, we're going to be getting those live players with Panini, guys like Brooks Koepka, John Rahm, Cameron Smith. It'd be pretty cool to get Upper Deck cards for them as well. In fact, that would be a sweet way for Upper Deck to really flex over Panini and say, we don't care that they play on the Live Tour and that, you have their logoed team Live cards or whatever. Their Upper Deck card is the true rookie. So Upper Deck people, if you're listening, you should give that a shot. But more importantly, they definitely need to sign the current stars on the PGA Tour. And I mean, far and above anyone else, Scottie Scheffler is the guy. Like, they need to sign Scottie Scheffler. Now, secondary one, the winner of the PGA Championship, I would say Xander Schauffele. Wait, did he win? Yeah, he won the PGA. Anyways, Xander Schauffele. Don't get him confused with Scheffler. Schauffele would be another one. He only has a Sports Illustrated for kids, and we're not going to be getting Schauffele cards with the Live Panini cards. So, this Panini product is really going to fill in some gaps, but there's still guys that we're going to be missing, and it's unfortunate. So, anyways, Pat, thanks for the question. Josh Broem, when are we going to see a Scottie Scheffler auto? Well, I mean, we have aftermarket autographs already. I've seen some third-party authenticated Sports Illustrated for kids Scottie Scheffler autographs. And currently, those are sitting on eBay at a buy-now price of $3,000 US. I wouldn't touch it for that price, especially considering it's, Sports Illustrated for kids. And if anybody does sign Scottie and get pack-pulled autographs, eventually, those might not carry their value in the short term. Maybe long term they would. If Scottie does turn out to be the second coming of Tiger Woods, a Tiger Woods autograph Sports Illustrated for kids is an extremely valuable card. So, I think it's an awesome card, but I would hold off on pulling the trigger on one of those. I guess to answer your question, Josh, I think we're going to get Scottie Scheffler autographs in the same day that we get pack-pulled Scottie Scheffler cards. And that's all there really is to it. Next up, we got RJ Spallone. That's a fun name. Are vintage golfers such as Bobby Jones, Sam Snead, and Ben Hogan undervalued? RJ, I had to go and do some research to answer this question because, I'm familiar with some of their cards. I'm not a huge vintage guy. A little more intrigued after my conversation with Leighton on Sports Cards Live with Jeremy Lee. But I wanted to look up some specifics. So for Bobby Jones, I guess it really depends on what card. What is commonly referred to as his rookie card, which, by the way, was debated by our vintage golf card expert John Morton in a very early episode of Fondling Cardboard. I think it was like the 7th or 8th episode. So rewind if you haven't listened to that one already. But according to him, there's the definition of his rookie card is a bit controversial. But if we were to take the 1926 Lambert and Butler, Bobby Jones, Who's Who in Sport as being his rookie card, undervalued? I don't know. Like I saw a raw copy sell for $345 American, $516. So, $400 for an SGC3. So do I think those are undervalued? I don't know. That sounds about right. Like those aren't cheap cards. Of course, my favorite Bobby Jones is the 1933 Gaudi Sports Kings. So check out that card. And I'm sure it sells for very similar prices. In fact, in SGC3, I bet it would be even more. So Bobby Jones, maybe not. You mentioned Sam Snead. Now, that's a guy I don't know much about his cards at all. I'm even less familiar than Bobby Jones. But I did some digging on eBay. I found a super cool card, a 1959 Fleer Two Famous Fishermen with Sam Snead and Ted Williams. It's really cool card and not expensive at all. So I don't know about undervalued because I don't know how significant it is in the history of cards, but if you're looking for a sweet Sam Snead card to pick up, I recommend that one. But it looks like his 1952 Wheaties hand cut is a very popular card for him. I don't know if it's considered his rookie, but it looks like you can get a PSA 7 for $120, or at least that's what it's sold for. Yeah, that is undervalued. Absolutely, I think. I don't know what the pop is and whatever, but that seems like a good pickup for whoever got it. 1955 All-American Sports Club hand cut Pop 1 PSA 10 is, I believe, sold for $995. Seems undervalued. I mean, that's a Pop 1 PSA 10 of the guy who has, the second most number of wins on the PGA Tour. And there's an inscribed autograph on a 1991 Pro Set card for Sam Snead with PSA authentication for $155. Yeah, I'd say Sam Snead is definitely seeming very undervalued. And then we get to Ben Hogan. Now, 1951 Burke Ross, 1954 Top Scoop PSA 5. That Top Scoop PSA 5 sold for $300. Not many other sales. I mean, my intuition says maybe that seems undervalued because of how great he was, but at least that is a decent price. $300 isn't something to balk at. So I guess long story short, it's very player dependent. All right, we're going to wrap up Mailbag with one more question from Pat Bonnet, and he asks, why don't golf courses carry golf cards and memorabilia? Pat, that's an awesome question, and I'm sorry to push you off, but I'm actually going to cover that in a future episode, so make sure you keep listening. In conclusion, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and try to resonate and connect with other collectors. Because even if you get shut down, so what? That's not the guy you want to hang out with. That's not the guy you want to connect with. But if somebody's truly vibing, they will help you build the collection of your dreams if it's within their capabilities. And every now and then you're going to stumble into somebody that it is within their capabilities. And this whole network community type conversation, it's kind of fitting because last episode we talked about 10 aspects of a niche hobby community, and today we talked about some networking and some G-Gum cards in the fantasy pool, and I didn't get to hit all the points I want, so this is kind of evolving into maybe a 3-part mini-series unintentionally, but there you go. And so make sure you tune in next week to kind of get the wrap up of these topics. And of course, don't forget to sign up for the Fondling Cardboard, the British Open Championship Golf Card Fantasy Pool. I look forward to seeing you there, where we're going to be hopefully giving away the Tiger Woods pristine BGS 10 G-Gum card if we can get 30 people to join the pool. See you there, and see you next week.
Ridiculous golf card collector.